Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Bastian of Laryngopedia and Bastian Voice Institute. In a prior video, I explained the concept of voice building, making an analogy with bodybuilding. The voice exercises I suggested were an aggressive 30 seconds of the voice of authority, long ago people found, then the ship ahoy voice, long ago people found, and then the siren, ooh. I have suggested that each of these three exercises be done extremely loudly and with over-articulation, emphasis of all the sounds of speech, and that you do that at least 4 times a day. The idea was that vocal tract muscles in the larynx, here's the larynx, there are muscles outside and inside the larynx, and here you see them within the vocal cords, but it's not just in the vocal cords here, these two bands, but it's also in the neck, the abdomen, the chest, the tongue, and all of those muscles are strengthened by this kind of challenge. You don't expect anything to happen instantly, but you do that 4 times, 6 times a day for 2 weeks before assessing the benefit. Now, after those 2 weeks, you might notice that you have more voice to call upon in noisy environments, or that you have better endurance, or your voice doesn't fade as early in the day. Well, in this video, I want to add a further voice building discussion specific to persons with Parkinson's disease, PD. That's because PD not only weakens the muscles of the larynx, but it also diminishes what we call the inner voice. The engine, the vitality, the strength of intent of the voice is diminished. Think of it as the engine and drivetrain of the voice here, the engine and drivetrain in here as compared with the car as a whole. To illustrate, I have a very strong mechanism. I can do hey! And with my strong mechanism intact, same mechanism, I can do first gear, I can do second gear, I can do third gear, and I can do fourth gear. The mechanism is the same. What's different is the engine and drivetrain are doing different things. So that engine and drivetrain are unseen in the car, but you do perceive it by how the car moves. And in the larynx, you don't see the inner engine of the voice. It's unseen, but it is reflected in the voice we hear. Well, how does this relate to PD? For persons with that disorder, the inner engine that powers the voice typically has trouble getting out of first gear, so others experience a soft voice. For voice, when the engine is idling, it's really quiet and lacking in energy. So persons with PD don't necessarily sense that low energy, but that's how others experience their voice. Now, a brief aside, this same idea of the first gear, having trouble getting out of first gear, applies to arms, legs, facial expression, speed of walking goes down, reaction time is longer, a loud bang over there, and the typical person will do this. Persons with Parkinson's disease will kind of look more slowly. It's called bradykinesia, or slowed movement. Well, the result of the first gear voice is that not only is the engine weak, but it's like the tires are a little underinflated. You weaken the mechanism too. So if the person with PD does these bursts of voice building, and they're going for loud and over-articulation, they can do that like anyone else, but they have to pay special attention to this idea of revving the inner engine. Now, why do that for such a short time, several times a day? Why not just do it for an hour a day, or even for an hour a week, or that kind of a thing? It's because it's too boring for a lot of people to do that long of a session at once. And furthermore, if you do it once a day, you're going almost 24 hours until the next visit of the big voice. If you do it once a week, it's several days, or every 3 days, it's several days. If you do it for 2 minutes, 4 or 6 times a day, you're never very far away from that inner voice concept of revving the motor. Not only during those exercise sessions, by the way, in the shower, while dressing, driving somewhere, But even when you're just speaking to someone, you have to kind of rev that inner engine and imagine that you're kind of pressing or pushing the voice. Now, it's not going to come out very loudly, but it will be better for your family and friends. You'll get at least into second gear. Now, recruit family and friends to this process. Develop a signal you both understand that they can give you, saying, come on, rev your engine. They could touch their ear, or they could point at their chest, meaning the engine, get going, or they could do this, or they could mouth the word engine. And then your response is to kind of rev the engine and over-articulate. Now, they can give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a so-so gesture to indicate how you were doing in case you are wrong in your own internal assessment. Well, what about plumping the vocal cords? The idea there is, well, okay, fine, the engine is weak, but what if the tires are also a little bit flat? Well, if a person does this voice building with attention to the inner engine, the revving, and they're able to master that, so when requested they can rev, and the voice is still very soft, then maybe consider implants. But until a person is very good at seeing this and increasing loudness, implants wouldn't help. Now, for some, you may now have the point of this video and not need to go any further, but if you want a summary, here's a brief summary. Number one, persons with PD have weak muscle and they have an engine, a drivetrain that has trouble getting out of first gear. Two, traditional voice muscle building is appropriate. That voice of authority, the ship ahoy, and the siren, ooh, is appropriate. And you're going for loudness and over-articulation. But equally crucially, persons with PD need to pay attention to the inner vitality, that sense of revving. Get the voice into second gear to third gear. Get it out of park and jam on the gas. Even if necessary, imagine that you're yelling every time you talk to somebody. It won't come out like that, but they will get your voice much better. Vocal cord implants are only of value in those who demonstrate that they can rev the engine and shift into a higher gear. If you can't shift in that higher gear, implants won't help you. Use family and friends to be your cue, to touch their ear or point at themselves or mouth the word engine. And it goes without saying, I could have said this at the very beginning, with PD, of course, you're going to manage the disorder medically as best you can, so stay in touch with your neurologist. So in conclusion, yes, build the muscle like anyone else who's got weak muscles, but in particular, get in touch with the inner engine of the voice. Rev the motor and shift to second and third gear. And do it consistently across a period of time and see what you can accomplish. Well, thank you for listening to this video, and certainly all the best in your work towards a better voice.